made tonight will be for the good of the whole. Father, your discernment and wisdom be upon their hearts tonight. Father, Miss Vanna, be with her and the baby, and just pray that everything goes well, and that your hand be upon her and the doctors and the nurses that will aid in that delivery. And Father, we just give you so much thanks for modern medicine and those men and women who dedicate their lives to that. We just thank you so much for them. Thank you so much for your son Jesus and the blessing of his death on the cross and the blood that was shed on our behalf. And we ask this in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen.
If you will join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank goodness we don't have any mayor proclamations tonight, so we will move right into community-related announcements. Mr. Lyon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple items real quick. We have starting, remind everyone in Midwest City that we have the Juneteenth celebration this coming Saturday at 3 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. in Joe B. Barnes Regional Park. So please come out and join us for the celebration. Cruising for Coffee is June 15th as well, but it's in the morning time starting at 8 a.m. And got the sales tax check-in yesterday, I think. So our sales and use tax, our sales tax was down 3.21%. Our use tax is up 17.79. Overall, we're down 1.20 for our last sales tax check of the month. Compared to previous year, we are down about we're flat. I shouldn't say we're down. We're just flat versus previous year. And against our projection, we are still up about 1.86% because our conservative revenue projection. And with that, Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Lyon. We'll move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the council members and by unanimous consent can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any council member requests to discuss an item, or if there's not unanimous consent, then the item will be removed and heard in regular order. I will make a note that item number 5 needs to be pulled as we make the motion to correct some verbiage. And with that, Chair, entertain the motion.
Mr. Mayor, number 18 as well.
Number 18.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And Mayor, if we could also pull item 8 for discussion.
Item what?
I-8, please.
You bet. So, item 8, 5, and 18, I would entertain a motion indicating that.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 5, 8, and 18.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carried. Mr. Lyon, number 5.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of approving a project agreement generally known as State Job Number 36725, parentheses 04 with Oklahoma Department of Transportation, to receive $324,000 in construction federal funds for a future federal aid project to construct sidewalk along the south side of 23rd Street from Air Depot to Soldier Creek Industrial Park and associated work. Mr. Bundy.
Thank you. I apologize. After we put this on the agenda and it was published, we found an error. If you look on page 6, under the funding summary, what is proposed in the agenda shows some money for design. It was allocated, but it was misallocated. We don't have any money for design in this project. So before you, I passed it out in a hard copy form. That line is just missing. It doesn't change the overall funding that we were given, but it does make it more clear that it's all for construction, nothing for design.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Bundy?
Will the design be done in-house? Will you do the design then?
I would love to do the design in-house, but no, we will hire somebody.
So are we responsible for the design?
Yes, we are responsible, and it is in the proposed budget.
So is that part of the 81,000, or is that in addition to?
What's proposed in the budget covers design and the 81,000.
Any further questions? Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Item number 8, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action approving an ancillary agreement with Sooner Town Center LLC and Sooner Town Center 2 LLC. Mr. Mish.
Good evening. This is a proposed ancillary agreement with Sooner Town Center and Sooner Town Center 2. The necessity for this has come about because of the vacancy at Dick's Sporting Goods. Sooner Town Center 2 is becoming cash poor and needs to be able to meet their legal obligations. They have a loan out with FNB, First National Bank. That payments still need to be made, and as cash poor, the money needs to be transferred over. We're a party to this because when the original agreement for that loan was decided, that loan came before this body, and as well as, you'll note, this is also on the Hospital Authority agenda, came before, and we are signatories to that note, so we are obligated as well. We entered into negotiations with Sooner Town Center 2, and reached this agreement. This agreement will then have us splitting the payment requirements to make Sooner Town Center 2 be able to make their payments. They will cover half of it, and we will cover half of it. So with that, I'll be happy to
And
take any
the
questions.
money comes from Sooner Town Center 1, which is Kohl's, Target, all those. And so the money is, we split the rent. We split how much revenue comes in from rent. So this rent money they'll pay for half, we'll pay for half until Dick's Sporting Goods is filled again. And then when it
Right.
is,
And one of the
will
things we
cease
made
this
sure,
agreement.
one of the things we made sure of is this is a specific contract. If you'll notice, it only covers this year and next year. Our belief is that it will be occupied, hopefully a year from now, and we can terminate, and we put a provision in there, we can terminate this at any time it becomes occupied and they get their cash flowing in. So if it happens earlier, we can do that, but we did put a specific drop dead date for this agreement, which is December 31st of 2025.
So one thing I think that confused me, just because I wasn't here when the Sooner deal went through.
I wasn't here either, I had to educate myself.
So the Sooner Town 1 versus the Sooner Town LLC 2, are those private companies, or is that an entity that the city owns?
The city does not. What happened was, back in when we did Sooner Town Center, we took a condemnation eminent domain proceeding and acquired that property. We then leased that property to, at that time, Sooner Town Center 1. As it expanded, Sooner Town Center 2, Sooner Town Center 3, Sooner Town Center 4 were added. Now, today, Sooner Town Center 2 and 3 have been combined together into one entity. When we did that, we leased them, and so the Sooner Town Centers own they constructed and they own the buildings that the land is built upon. We own the land itself, so that's why we have this joint agreement, and that joint agreement was originally created so that we would lease the land to them and then they would build and own the buildings. So that is why we have this relationship.
And if we were not to proceed with this agreement, the city would potentially be liable because there's a partnership?
Right. In other words, we're on the note just like Sooner Town Center 2. And if Sooner Town Center 2 were to default, then that could impact us.
My concern was tapping into the hospital authority funds, but I get it that at this point.
Right, we're
at
actually
risk,
not
so-
tapping per se into hospital authority funds.
Okay.
As
This is
Tim
moving
said,
rent from one
Right. In
One
other words,
entity to another.
money's really never going to pass
No.
by us. It's a reduction in the amount of participation rent that we will receive from Sooner Town Center 1 for that portion of Sooner Town Center that they operate.
Thank you for clarifying. Move to approve. Thanks.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is this part of our budget? Have we budget this into our upcoming budget that we approved, getting ready to approve? Or is this going to be something that we have to readjust?
It's a good question. The way these entities, we'll let Tia come up. He wants to.
So we took it into account for the revenues that will be reduced from it. There's no expenses, it doesn't cost us anything, but we did take it into account of where there will be reduced revenues coming to us in order to help pay for this.
Until Dix is filled.
Until Dix
filled.
is filled, and then we can readjust the budget accordingly. So we did take it into account.
Okay.
Okay, my questions go to Dawn. You might be better suited to answer these. So what are the attempts by Sooner Investment in order to satisfy getting Dix rented?
I'm sorry, repeat that in.
I can answer that. That'll have to be an executive session item. We've talked about it in past, and I mean, we're under a non-disclosure agreement on refilling Dick's Sporting Goods, but we can talk about that in another meeting.
Does the non-disclosure allow us to discuss the numerosity of offers or letters of intent with regard to Dick's Sporting Goods space without naming any particular applicant?
We have 2 LOIs, but we don't have leases.
Okay. Then respectfully, I apologize, Councilwoman, I think you started down a motion to approve, but respectfully, I'm going to move to take no action on this item until we can convene in an executive session to understand what is happening with the leasing of Sooner Town Center Part 2, the Dick's space in particular, and let Sooner Investment Group come in and explain to us what activities they have taken to get that leased, other than letting it just lie there, coupled with, again, Sooner Rose also, which isn't on this issue, but while they're here, I'd love to know what they're doing to undertake that, because we have a TIF on
Ms.
that.
Eads, we do have a motion on the floor that we're gonna have to address. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, that's all right. Okay, you'll have to, you'll have to amend your
Default.
original motion
Some point
to
we'll default.
comply with her request.
I think she can withdraw it.
She said, since no action.
Amend or withdraw.
Well, ask on that
Did you have another
Okay.
question?
I do. Before I vote to take no action on this, I'd like to know when this note is due, and if we don't move to make the payment now, is there a chance that we will go into arrears with the bank note?
That is a really good question. They do have enough cash on hand, it is my understanding, to make the interest payment on this. If First National Bank begins requesting principal payments, they could go into default very quickly, within, I would say, 30 days.
Which we also have a council meeting slated for the 4th Tuesday of this month. And again, respectfully, Councilman, Sooner Investment Group has a tendency to come to us at the 11th hour with problems repeatedly. So respectfully, I understand the risk, but we're a signatory on this situation. And some of this needs to be their problem without us being the fix-it man for them all the time, in my opinion. So again, I ask your indulgence, we're talking 2 weeks' time.
All right.
Is there any further questions or comments?
Tim,
We have
can
a
you,
motion? Go ahead.
I apologize, Tim, can you bring this back to us in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we can have an executive session and Robert can make sure our friends from Sooner are here to talk about where they're at, what their status is on refilling the Dick's Sporting Goods.
And while they're here, I'd love to hear it with regard to all of the space they have available, since we're going to be getting to entertain them.
So once again, we do have a properly formed motion and we have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
No.
Go ahead and with a roll call vote, please.
Eads,
What are we we're voting to not?
To take no action.
We're
Take no-
voting to take no action on this and bring it back at the next council meeting.
Eads,
yes, to take no action.
Byrne,
No.
Maxwell,
No.
Thompson,
Yes.
Banna,
Yes.
Favors,
No.
Dukes.
No. Motion carries to take no action.
No, Mr. Mayor, it failed. Yeah,
Unless you
You voted
voted
no, right?
backwards, it fails.
Rita voted no, so you have
Oh, I'm
Byrne,
sorry.
so it was 4-3 no,
So,
to
all
to
right.
deny.
I apologize, I got my math wrong. All right. Good discussion, though.
Okay, no.
There may need to be a motion to approve.
Robert, do you want to talk about this?
Well, there's a couple of things I think, that need to be said and clarified. This is not Sooner Investment Property we're talking about. This is Collette Real Estate out of North Carolina, who was our original and very important partner for all of Town Center Plaza. Sooner Investment is just the leasing company. They want to get it leased as quickly as possible. They don't make any money with an empty building. They make money when they create contracts, executed contracts. Sooner Rose is Sooner Investment. Town Center Plaza is not.
Okay.
This is Collette Real Estate out of North Carolina,
Who worked with Center Investment.
who works with a lot of people across the country. And this is one of their
He was
larger,
brought to us with Center Investment, when he worked with Center Investment, correct?
yeah, they
When
were.
he started,
Sooner Investment did introduce, it's my understanding, that was way before my time, but Sooner Investment did
but
introduce
wasn't Center
Collette.
Investment originally in Town Center? Because I didn't think Colette's been around that long, and then Colette took over for Center Investment with regard to
Oh,
Town
it's, I
Center.
think it's all been, it's Collette's money and it's Collette's debt.
But Collette's not involved at
Cedar Rose,
Sooner Rose.
right.
Correct.
Have no investment there. That is all Sooner. And
There-
Collette is just the leasing agent, that's right.
The space, as I've told you all before, is very, very difficult to let because it's a large building and there's not as much of a need for a large building anymore, especially because of the depth. We found that out with the former J.C. Penney. So it will eventually be split in two, and we have already received calls from one of the prospective tenants on it, which is 15,000 of the 30,000 square feet. We think another 15,000 square foot tenant is out there. I can't tell you if that's gonna be tomorrow or in 2 days. I will agree with what Don said. The occupants, if we started today and had permits today, it's gonna take probably more than 6 months to divide that building because of the heat and air systems and fire suppression and all that. So it's not an easy fix, and the agreement that's before you seemed to be a good compromise, which caused them some pain, caused us some pain, because at this point, it is my understanding, and I hate to speak completely for Collette, but they've just been paying interest on it, and by the good grace of FNB, have not been called on principal yet, and I'm not sure that they know how much longer that's gonna go on.
But we're in a situation, Robert, where Dick's has been empty, how long now?
Since New Year's Day last year.
Of 2023?
Mhm.
And so, again, we're at a point where time has passed. I totally understand what you're saying with regard to brick and mortar. But, I mean, I'll renew my comments. Collette, Sooner Investment, I appreciate the legal clarity of which entity is involved. But honestly, to me, based on my experience sitting in this seat, they've been almost interchangeable because they've been involved in the same transactions with the same property, and we get the same result. We're just not getting space leased. Now, is there a problem with leasing the space? Okay, but I would like to see us be informed in an executive session with great detail exactly what efforts have been undertaken to lease the space. I think we deserve to know that before we, sitting as good fiscal stewards of the city, say, you betcha, let's jump out there and try to help them. We've got businesses that fail every day in this city, unfortunately. There's, not every day, but, okay, in fairness, Robert, We've had from memory, from a conversation with somebody with city staff, we've had 5 businesses fail within the last 2 months for sure. Okay? And I see empty storefronts with restaurants, et cetera, around town. So I know it's happening. I know I'm not crazy. So respectfully, I would just like to be given the information before we're asked to put forward money. And I understand that there's a legal obligation that came largely before anybody that's on this horseshoe right now, I think, got on this horseshoe. But, like, we need to determine exactly what we can do to minimize our risk and what we're up against in order to be able to stop the bleed, so to speak.
Understand.
And so I don't think 2 weeks is too long to ask for that, but.
Mr. City Manager, can we get those people here in 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see why not.
What was
Now,
the
we
vo-
may
what-
not be, we
excuse me.
won't get Colette.
What was the vote on the floor? What did we decide?
The no action failed.
We voted to take no action, and the vote failed to take no action. So we will have to entertain a motion to take whatever action at the,
But before we throw another motion out there, I agree, I'm really torn on this. I know we need to do something to make sure we don't default. I know that. But I don't disagree with what Susan's saying either, to get somebody from whoever's supposed to be on the other side of this coin there in a meeting. with
Yeah, I
us.
agree with Susan, whether it's Sooner or Colette, you really can't separate them. They're in the same type offices.
So
and-
how can we,
But we can get them here.
how is the council, what is the best road, and I'm asking you, Mr. City Manager,
Mhm.
what is the best move for us tonight to protect the city and to also get them in here in 2 weeks? Because I don't want to put us in a position where we're going to default at the bank.
Yeah, and so the answer to that really is, there's no issue. We'll get an executive session, okay? That's the easy part. But there's not any really choices here that we have. I mean, if this defaults, they're gonna default. We're gonna have to make these payments ourselves, and then we'll have to take the property from them. But I don't really see a reason to do that. I don't think we have a choice, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in 6 months, but to take the action we're trying to ask for tonight.
And I understand that, so.
I mean, I wish there was a better
We,
solution. I don't know what it is.
and a lot of what Susan just said, for those of us that have been on the council for a while, we've all, when I was Sean was very vocal about how he felt about some of the things that went on. And I understand where Susan's coming from without spilling it all out. But some way, I'm asking you, Mr. City Manager, what is the best move for us to protect the city? And then also get them in here at the next council meeting, an executive session, because it's been a while since they've been here.
Yeah, it has been.
And they need to come in here and explain to us.
And they can cover other things too. It's not just
So
big sporting goods. They can-
what is the best move, and I'll include you in it, Robert, what's the best move for us to do that? Because I don't think anybody wants us to default.
Yeah.
But I think everybody on this horseshoe needs to hear from them on what's going on, because, you know, we get asked a lot. And I know we can't tell them if there's, with the LOI, or whatever they are, but they need to explain to us, what, you know, and not just, well, we're working on it, and, you know, things are tough, and, you know, that you can only ride that horse for so long.
I think,
Councilwoman Eads, it occurs to me that, based on what Robert told us, there's going to be extensive remodeling of that building eventually required. That's going to cost a lot of money. So somebody's going to come back to us soon and have to explain to us where that remodeling money is going to come from to put in new clients. By the action that we just took, we are basically trying to leverage the appearance of the Sooner Colette folks here by holding this vote in abeyance. It might be better for us to reconsider that, approve our obligation for transferring this money, but hold in abeyance any further action on this or any further participation in this until we get them here to explain to us in adequate detail all the ramifications of what they're doing.
That's my opinion with it, Councilman, is, again, 2 weeks is not a long time to wait, and even whenever you take into consideration what Robert said, for some time, it appears that Colette has been paying interest-only payments on that building. So they knew this was coming for a while. You don't just run to the end of your fund, you know, with 1 month's notice and then go, oh, I've got a problem, I'm out of money. If you can't make principal and interest on it, and you've been paying interest-only payments for a while, and you're getting to the end of your fund, you gotta do something. And respectfully, if you're gonna be a good business partner with us, a little earlier heads up would be a good idea. Not like, hey, we've got maybe 30 days left. So that's why also I think we need to take no action on this, table it, let it come back at the next time, have an executive session on it, and discuss it in detail, where we can all know what's going on. And respectfully also, Dick's Sporting Goods is in my ward. I mean, so, you know, I speak to this in earnest. I see a big blank hole there every day. So,
And I think, to Councilwoman Eads' point, I think it's a matter of being transparent with the council so we know what hopes, with the letters of interest, what hopes there really exist and what we can hold them accountable to, whether it's in a month or 2 months. And to Tim's point, if they fail, because it has been a while, I mean, I remember when former Councilwoman Bain was addressing this building shut down, what are we gonna do proactively? And if they're not gonna be able to get something done, maybe it is in the better interest of the city to take over the building, you know, if we're gonna make payments, you know, at this point.
Mr. Mutch, what's the city's exposure?
Well, you've heard it here. If they were to default, we are a signatory on there. There is a provision in that it could potentially come to us. So the liability would easily come to the city then at that moment in time. You could make Robert's job a little more difficult, as now we're trying to fill as opposed to having a company attempt to fill the location. Obviously, if we were to default on it, then while we're not defaulting on the land, we will always own the land, and the land is the city's. That building could, you know, end up being with First National Bank, and they could end up selling it to somebody else to recoup, and then who knows who we're dealing with, to take it 6 steps down the road somewhere. So yes, do we have some exposure? Yes, we do.
but normally, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Meisch, but normally in my experience, when you get I'm gonna say a foreclosure notice, et cetera, you're talking, you usually have at least a 30-day notice period coming to you that we're about to.
Yes, and there are, you know, they would have to proceed with filing and.
Right.
There's a timeframe that occurs.
And collectively, we, not just Sooner, we started trying to fill that space before they ever left. It's just a very difficult
Now,
space.
what I was
Very difficult to fill that space with the limited parking that's there
We
for
have
that
been
large.
And height.
negotiations on this with Colette for a couple of months. I do want to, full transparency, we have had some discussion, we've been having discussions with them the last couple of months, and finally, we're able to work out this agreement.
Mr.
So
Coleman,
is there
I-
a compromise that we can come to in regards to this?
I have another question for you, just quickly. Business people don't always like to get involved in messy situations. This is turning into a messy situation. Have we already done damage to your ability to lease that property by muddying the waters?
No, not at all. I mean, you have a handful of people out there that want a certain size space. We have, we have tolerances on what we can put in Town Center Plaza because of the zoning ordinance. It was written that way, so we didn't have some of the more undesirable, low-paying uses. You know, the agreement could be rewritten if we just want anything in there. We've tried to hold out for companies that would reflect the quality and the type of businesses that are already there. And that pool is limited for people that will take the whole space. If it's divided down, then it gets a little larger. If it were 5 spaces instead of 1, it would be even easier, especially if it wasn't as deep as it is. But this is not hurting our recruiting efforts, no, this discussion.
All right.
Can I ask one more question? I've heard 2 different reasonings as to why Dick's went out of business to begin with, just as a matter of clarity, and I don't know if you definitively know. At one point, I was advised by people in the community that we had increased the rent on Dick's and they couldn't keep paying it. At another point, I'd also been advised that the company's decision to stop selling guns had diminished their business and they were shutting down multitudes of locations. Do you know, as a matter of fact, what may have caused?
It's a
the
publicly
demise?
traded company, so there's not a whole lot that I want to say that hasn't already been printed somewhere. But it's my understanding that nationwide, they lost 1.3% of their sales. Well, as you can surmise, in Oklahoma, I would guess that hunting equipment, not just guns, but hunting equipment in general, accounted for a greater percentage of sales here than they may have in some of the other stores. And there's competitors out there that didn't relinquish those items. So I think it did, in fact, damage some stores here worse than others.
Don, could we make a motion to approve and say, put a limit on maybe 30 days, ask that they come and talk to us at our next council meeting, and then we could change a motion if we needed to
I think, I don't have a problem with waiting. It's only 2 weeks. Let's just wait and take no action.
We can take no action without a vote,
Yeah, we can take no action without a vote.
with the understanding they need to be here. If they can't see fit to be here, then that just tells us it's not important.
Yeah, we'll have somebody here.
So I
It's a huge
assume
investment.
that the wishes of the council is take no action
As long
and
as
move forward.
The city manager and Roberts says it's not gonna cause us any additional liability.
I don't have the payment book, and I don't know the agreement as well as Don does, but I don't think 2 weeks will make a difference.
Yeah. I'm
That
fine
being
with
said, we will table this item and come back in 2 weeks with an executive session and a vote on.
We table it, do we need to vote?
If you table it, it has to come back exactly
I-
as it is, just remember that,
I said take no action.
Okay,
take no action.
all right.
Okay.
Is that the wishes of the council? We'll move forward on that.
Okay.
Very good discussion. Item 18, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, considerations, possible action of making a matter of record permit number SL 55240-237 from DEQ for the O'Reilly Sewer Line Extension at 9809 Southeast 15th. Brandon.
Mayor, I'm just going to bring attention that my wife is the realtor on the sale of this property, so I have a conflict of interest. That was the reason that I asked that item 18 be pulled. I'm going to step off the horseshoe while allowing you all to make your decision as to what you
Thank you,
decide.
Mr. Favors. You'll have to exit the room. Go ahead, Mr. Bundy.
This is the ODEQ permit for a sewer line extension to serve O'Reilly's on 15th Street near Post. ODEQ requires that we make this a matter of record. The permit's already been issued.
Is there any questions of Mr. Bundy on this particular issue? When's construction slated to start, you know?
They're still waiting on their building permit, and I think it's a private development, so until they call us and say, hey, we're ready to start construction, they don't tell us much, but they're waiting on their building permit, and I think once they get their building permit, generally, general contractor will go out there, mobilize, get a feel for the area, and then start doing the infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
To approve?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. We now move into our two discussion items. Discussion item number 1, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of adopting ordinance
Wait,
amending the
excuse me.
Midwest City
Did we approve the rest of the consent agenda?
We did.
All right.
Okay, discussion, consideration, possible action adopting an ordinance amending the Midwest City Municipal Code, Chapter 32 peddlers and solicitors, Article 4 garage sales, yard sales, Section 3276, an exemption and repealer for severability. Mr. Maish.
Thank you. So this was a request by several people, including at least one person from the city council, to allow for the city to host a neighborhood-wide garage sale. We had to make some changes in our ordinances to be able to waive permit fees for that garage sale. And that's what this does. Additionally, what it does is it asks and it requires that if you're going to have a garage sale during this, to notify the city. Thereby, the city can identify where those locations are and provide a map online, so people will know where to go to a garage sale. The permit fees will be waived, and it will be at the discretion of the city manager when to call for a citywide garage sale. Originally, we thought we'd put this on the ordinance review committee, but given how the summertime is starting to wane and there was some interest to having one this year, we thought it would be better to not take this before the ordinance review committee, do it now, thereby it goes into effect on July 11th. And towards the end of the summer, then, if the city manager, with those who are interested so choose, they can set up a date for a citywide garage sale here within the city.
So I'm just going to jump out on this one and say the anonymity is gone. It's me. I'm the city council person who asked for this because I've had several constituents ask for this. The mayor has had several of my direct constituents ask him for the same thing. So he's nodding in agreement because we know one very vocal individual who is desperately seeking this and has wanted this for several years. Several of our neighboring communities do this and have been successful with it. It also allows for an opportunity for folks to eat and shop while they're here in Midwest City, not just the garage sales, but other things that they need. And so the idea is to waive the fee, basically annually in general, and just give an opportunity for people to gather, do the garage sale in, eat some good food while they're here, do a little shopping while they're here, and enjoy each other's company. And so I just want to thank everybody who has worked very hard on this, particularly you, Don and Tim, and the mayor, for your agreement and going forward with this idea. If it doesn't work, well, I'll take responsibility that I asked for it too. So with that, I would just ask to move to approve this item.
I do have one question. None of these are going to count against the 2 a year that they're allowed?
No, it does not.
Awesome.
This will be, it's a special one-off, and it's an exception to, why we wrote it into the exception paragraph is so it accepts everything out, so,
Okay.
yes.
And I would add to Ms. Eads' motion that we deem this the Eads ordinance.
I
I
think
would
what you
also
meant
like-
to say was the Rilla Johnson ordinance.
I would
I do
also
have a
like to
motion.
request that we set the date for this on the first home game for the OU football team every year, so that
You're-
we inconvenience our Sooner
You're out of
friends
order.
to the absolute maximum.
You're out of order, Mr. Thompson. So I do have a motion, and I assume I have a second? Second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration of possible action on a resolution approving the City of Midwest City, Oklahoma budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $126,237,836 and establishing budget amendment authority. Mr. Cromar.
I'm excited for this night. This has been months in the making from my department. We put in months and months of work into this. This has been an extenuous amount of collaboration we've done with management and directors and supervisors and frontline staff to come up with, I would consider, the best budget that takes into account all the diverse problems and situations and needs that we have for our city. And so I'm very, very excited for this night and to be able to have the budget before you.
This is a public hearing, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council concerning this budget? Seeing none, the chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Before
ma'am.
we do this? I do want to thank the city manager. There were some records that I've been trying to get prior to the last budget meeting. I want to say that I think we've made a lot of progress as far as transparency and being able to break down that information and making it accessible to all of us. I want to thank Mr. Cromar for always being patient and answering my questions, and then for your due diligence and all that you do. I want to be clear, I'm a yes vote this year, but there's about 20% of the budget that I would like to change in different ways, mostly because of areas that I'd like to see us reduce cost and just, but that's a different conversation for a different way, so, for a different day. So with that, I guess I'll move to approve.
I appreciate that, Ms. Banner. We really put in a lot of work to show how a lot of departments have done a lot of due diligence to show how fiscally responsible they are. And so, but I do appreciate that. Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
I'd
Abstention?
like to thank the staff from finance, our department heads, but Tia, since he's been here, has made improvement after improvement each and every year. The process and the management of this budget, it is the best one we've ever done in my 24-plus years, just for the record.
I would like to add to that the chair of the macroeconomics of Rose State College is extremely complimentary on the budget itself, but also the fact that we supply all that information online and it's readily available to anyone that wants to look at it. So he's made that comment 2 years running, so appreciate it. We now move into new business public discussion. We do have one person signed up. Mr. Moore, you want to approach council? And I do want to remind you, you got 4 minutes.
4 minutes. I'd like to get into some other things, but I'm going to try to keep it short. Jeff Moore, 516 North Cedar. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for hearing me. I think it's good to have some public discussion, and I'll try not to jump around. I watched the last meeting that y'all had. It was kind of a circus, but I've been on the council. I was on Planning Commission 10 years, council 8, and I've never seen the council get shut down so quickly with a quick motion, first motion, and a quick second motion. And I think we owe it. Everybody here has done a lot of work to get on council, and they're there to serve their citizens. And I just think we owe it to our council women and men to be able to speak, and it shouldn't be so rigid, in my opinion. Next thing, the building permits are going down. A retired home builder and developer back in 22, 23, I think, Matt, we brought this up. Matt was, all the building permits were, they weren't identified correctly. Supposedly there's a computer glitch. We used to have a couple hundred permits per year, and I think 22, there were 44 permits. This is on new residential starts. In 2023, there were only 33 building permits, and this year we're hitting 6. In my opinion, the reason, of course, the moratorium, 6 permits, that's terrible. That's an indication that our city's not doing well as far as new housing, and with our density, if you really look at the amount of money that most residents have, the term, our demographics, it's low. Only 80% of our population can afford, Midwest City can afford anything over probably 200,000. I'd like a study done on the income levels and what we really need, but I think we got to focus on what we need, not what we would like to have, but what's realistic. I'm going to hold to that. I would like to come up and I'm going to speak fairly often on what's on my mind, and I think we owe it to our citizens to give them more input, and thank you all for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for being here. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, we do have an executive session attached to this agenda. And, Mr. Lyon, you want to read it, and then I would entertain a motion. Okay. I need a motion to recess from the council agenda, please. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We are considered recessed, and I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that trustees can, with unanimous consent, approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests to discuss an item or there is not unanimous consent, then the item will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the consent, except item number 3, which we're going to table to be consistent with the item from the regular council meeting. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We'll just take no action on 3.
That's not the right one.
We're
No, we're on the municipal authority.
we're on the municipal authority, not the hospital
I
authority.
was on the wrong one, too.
Sorry. I withdraw that motion.
To entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Discussion items number 1, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion, consideration, and possible action on a resolution of the Midwest City Municipal Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $51,669,418.
No, ma'am. This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council considering this item? I have a motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Item number 2, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, possible action approving work order number 24000683 to the Master Services Agreement with Garver LLC in the amount of $174,892 to provide engineering services related to the Edgewood Lift Station interim improvements.
I'm confused. So as my colleagues have just pointed out, this appears to be a request for money, and yet Mr. Streets has appeared since bow tie. I don't understand. I'm confused.
We're going to switch it up a little bit.
Well, you sent Carrie up there.
Is that right?
I'm going to have to start buying some and just keep them on hand. I'll make sure, Councilmember Eads, I'll make sure that I fix that for next time. The item that's before you is a work order under our master services agreement with Garver LLC. It's for the design of improvements to the Edgewood Lift Station in order to start to implement some of those improvements that were identified as part of the East Side Sewer Study. And I'll take any questions that you might have.
How long will this roll on?
So we're estimating 9 months
Till you're
till it's completed.
3
Yes.
months of engineering and 6 months of
construction.
construction.
Any other questions? It's great we're moving forward on this particular item. Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
A motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. New business and public discussion. Does anyone in the audience have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. And I call the order of the Midwest City Hospital Authority. Again, we do have a consent agenda attached to this. Items placed on the consent agenda, so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any trustee requests an item to discuss an item, or if unanimous consent cannot be received, then the item will be removed and heard in regular order.
Move to approve consent item 1 and 2 and table 3.
Or take no action on 3.
Take no action.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention, motion carries. Discussion item number 1. Mr. Lyon.
It's discussion and update by SSM regarding status of improvements and operations at St. Anthony's Midwest Hospital. No action is necessary. This item is presented for informational discussion purposes only. We've invited Stacy Coleman here to come up, and she has a little present or PowerPoint that you see up on the screen, and she's going to give us an update on what's going on at the hospital.
Good evening, everyone. Like the city manager said, my name is Stacy Coleman. I am the president of SSM Health St. Anthony Hospital Midwest, and I wanted to take this opportunity to give you an update on what is happening at the hospital. So many of you all may know that SSM took over the operations of the hospital on April 1st of 2021. We just celebrated our 3-year, we never know to call it our birthday or our anniversary of the time that we have been at the facility. I myself have been, I took over as the president of the facility on January 2nd of 2023, so I've been there almost a year and a half, but I've worked with SSM Health for 30 years and had the honor of working on the acquisition of the operations and the due diligence and all of those things that happened started in 2019. So I'm excited to present what has happened over the last 3 years. I'm going to start right here. So many things that we did in the beginning of taking over the facility, and I'm going to go through what we've done to the facility, what new services we've brought, new physicians that we've acquired and brought to the community, and then talk some about the growth that we've had at the facility over the last 3 years. So some of the things that happened at the facility itself in regard to renovations and upgrades to the facility include the first floor, renovation of the first floor and the surgery waiting area. You know, I'll back up a bit and say that I would say that on average about 75% of the facility has been renovated and upgraded. Some of those renovation upgrades you can see, some of them you can't see if things like pipes and roofs and HVAC and boilers and those kind of things that needed to happen behind the scenes. But there is a lot that we've done that I think and feel signifies a significant change that's happened in the facility. We have a new cafeteria, and we'll talk a little bit about the construction and what we've done with the new cancer center, the new endoscopy center. We have renovated and upgraded all of the inpatient floors at the facility, added a new conference room, a new student lounge. One of the things that we like to do is bring additional and new students into the facility, as recruitment of healthcare professionals is extremely difficult. We want to get individuals into our facility and become a part of our culture and see what makes us special as quickly as we can as they're trying to select what they want to do. New physician dining and lounge areas, just the things to make sure that our facility makes it as easy for physicians and individuals that practice as possible. As far as new equipment, we have added a new cardiac cath lab. The facility's equipment was quite old in some of our areas. In the Heart and Vascular Institute or cardiology, we had 3 cath labs. They were quite old, so we are working through the process of replacing those areas. One took a little bit longer than we would have liked, but we do have the new cath lab up and running, so now we're taking another one down and adding new equipment to that room. New surgical equipment for the physicians, the surgeons that have been with us and are still with us, and the new surgeons that we've brought in over the past 3 years. Ambulances, I'm going to talk a little bit about, I have a slide that talks about the ambulances in and of itself and the importance of the EMS service that we have in this community and that we're lucky to run. But new ambulances, new 3D mammography to our breast center, nurse call systems, new patient beds, things people don't think about, but when patient beds are quite old, that has an impact on the care that the individuals have and how comfortable they are when they have to be in the hospital. ultrasound machines, x-ray machines, just to make sure that we are doing those things and having what the hospital needs to improve the patient care. When we talk about new and expanded services that we have brought to Midwest, the Cancer Center was something we talked a lot about even before we took over operations of the facility, something that we wanted to make sure that was in the community. We did open the new Cancer Center in November of 2022. Dr. Cleaver and Dr. Feisel are the physicians that are having physician clinics here, and then they're overseeing the medical oncology and the chemotherapy treatments that are going on for patients at the facility. The new endoscopy center, endoscopies were being performed in the ORs, which is not really where screening colonoscopy should be done. It's not the easiest on patients to have to go into the OR to have those done. So we constructed a separate endoscopy center where we have 2 endoscopy suites, 6 pre and post-op areas. We partner with DDSI Physician Group to perform those services for us. And we also have Dr. Vias. I don't know how many of you all know Dr. Vias. Dr. Vias has recently come back to Midwest Hospital. He's actually performing some screening colonoscopies. Some of his patients are admitted to the hospital, so we're extremely happy to have him back in the facility as well. Heart and vascular, this was another thing that we really discussed. How do we grow and have the ability to take care of more patients that have cardiac issues? Things that had happened with the cardiology service line way before we were involved, where many of those physicians left the hospital here and went to the heart hospital. And we're really working to what we can do to bring physicians back. I'm proud to say we have 10 cardiologists and 3 vascular surgeons that are currently working at the facility. So we're very proud of that and ability to serve and take care of more patients. Along those lines, one of the things, and I'll show you a graph in a minute when we talk about the ability and what we can do to take care of more patients. In 2021, the census of the hospital was running anywhere from 60 to 80 patients. And when we talk about census, we mean how many patients are in the hospital in a bed at midnight. Okay, so you'll hear hospitals talk about inpatients, and then we talk about outpatients, we talk about surgery patients, ER patients, but when you hear people talk about your census or your average daily census, it's the number of patients that are actually in a physical bed at midnight. And so in 2024, we've grown and had days where we have about 145 patients in the hospital. So we've had significant growth, and renovating those inpatient units and making sure that we could open those additional beds has really been something we've focused on for the last few years. We're proud that we have been able to bring, as we've added those new services, and as I mentioned, to bring additional physicians and providers to the community. We've had about 34 additional physicians and providers coming to the facility or in the community full-time providing services. I mentioned cardiology, general surgery, oncology services, orthopedic surgeons, a spine surgeon, pain management, additional primary care physicians, pulmonology, and really we're just wanting to make sure we're continuing to bring physicians to provide care to the community. And you know, it's easy to talk a lot about pretty buildings and equipment, but really I want you all to know what we want to do is have a hospital or healthcare in your community that you're proud to have. That if Rick needs services, Sarah needs services, Mark, or your family members or your neighbors, that you're proud and that we can take care of them. And if we can't, we want to get them to a facility that they can. But we want it to be a place that you all are proud. So we talk about facilities, and that's all a very important part of it. But we also care a lot about culture. We care a lot about employees, employee engagement, physician engagement. Nothing makes me happier than have someone that says, you know, I used to work here and I left and now I'm back. Nothing makes me happier to have physicians that are wanting to come back to the facility. So I just wanted to say what our overall goals are. I wanted to show you all this. In 2023, these are the zip codes that we had patients that we treated at our facility. So inpatient or outpatients, we treated individuals from over 370 zip codes across the state. When you look, the volume that came from outside Midwest City was about 63% of our volume. The other volume did come from the zip code within Midwest City. And so over to the side, you can see where outside of Midwest City did we pull the most volume from. So I think that's the top 10 zip codes, and then you can see by the blue zip codes where other patients came from. So back to when we talk about inpatient admissions to the facility, you can see how many admissions the facility had in 2021 and where we're projecting to go and have in 2023 from where we are in April year to date. So it's about a 33% increase in inpatient admissions from 2021. This shows our growth in total surgeries. In 2021, we had about 2,100 surgeries that we performed. This year, we project we'll have over 5,300 patients that we're able to take care of in the facility. Outpatient visits, so this is patients that needed an x-ray, an outpatient CT scan, a mammogram, people that are coming to the facility for those type of services. You can see we've had about 100% increase on the people we've been able to serve from 2021 to 2024. Emergency department, you can see we've grown about 13% on the patients that we are able to serve in our emergency department over that 3-year period. In talking about our EMS service, so I have to say our operating EMS service is different than we've done and what we've had in the past. It's not something that we operate in Oklahoma City or in Shawnee, so it is pretty distinctive for what we offer here in Midwest City. I think people say it's my favorite. It's not, I don't have favorites, but I do very much enjoy and value the service that EMS provides. I will say, and there's some people in the audience that probably can second this, at the beginning, it was a little rough. It was a little rough on staffing and being able to staff to have the number of trucks that we needed out in the community to respond to the 911 calls that were coming in. And just know we've worked extremely hard to recruit paramedics to make sure that we can staff and have the number of trucks we have out in the community. As of right now, we do not have any vacancies. We have filled all of our paramedic and EMT positions, and so we're really, really excited and proud of that. You can see on this the number of EMS transports. We looked at, we'll have about 8,700 transports this year. The column next to it shows the number of individuals that we were able to keep if they needed to be dropped at a hospital at Midwest City Hospital. Why that's important, if we're able to take care of those individuals in the community, we're able to get those trucks back out in the community much quicker. And we want individuals that need care to be able to stay in the community and get the care they need. Sure.
I've had this experience, but one of the issues that I know I faced with trying to get my mother care, and I know some other folks have faced, is what you're talking about with regard to EMS transport. And it was a situation where she had already been seen at St. Anthony's downtown. She was on dialysis. Her physician had privileges at the downtown location, not at Midwest City, et cetera. But when EMS picked her up, they wanted to take her to Midwest City, and if not, they had to call and request to see if they were allowed to take her downtown and get an authorization to go downtown. And while I appreciate the desire to try to keep all of the EMS vehicles here locally, so they're continuing to serve the local hospital, when you're in a situation where you've already been established downtown and you have, like in her case, like a significant medical malady that you need to return to the downtown location, and because your treating physician is there, I guess that's the concern I just wanted to raise really quickly. Like, I don't know if some inroads have happened with that, because I'll be honest, she passed away It'll be 2 years this fall. So it's been a minute since I've had to have any experience with this. But I do know other folks who have had that same situation arise where they've asked to, because of a circumstance, be transported downtown, and it's like, well, we're gonna have to get approval to take you downtown, but we can definitely take you, to Midwest City. And so I wanted to raise that question, Stacy.
And I appreciate that, and I will look into patient choice, because I do feel like that we honor patient choice. Now, if it was something that they determined was dire and they needed to get somebody to the quickest location, I know that will override that. But we do have patients that have physicians that are at Midwest that end up downtown, and vice versa. But I would love to get back to you on that and make sure. I think patient, request, we want to do that and make sure we're honoring choice.
Well, and again, to me, like in the situation that happened with my mother, it's choice, and yet it's not choice because her treating physician didn't have privileges at Midwest. So obviously, if she could be at Midwest, she lived here, I live here, it would make it easier for us as a
But if her
family.
nephrologist are downtown, her
Right,
nephrologists are
there's
downtown.
no-
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's no real choice in that,
Right.
because otherwise then it's like maybe somebody else with the group is, but that's not the person who's been taking care of you when you're that deep into dialysis and all the things. Like, you really need to stay with the person who's in charge of your
Right.
care. So if you could, I would just
would,
appreciate
absolutely.
it. So,
I would.
sorry to interrupt.
No, not
Just-
at all, not at all. Those are the things I want to hear. I do. Here's just a list of things that we continue. Just know that we know we're on a journey. We are not perfect. We've come a long way, but we have some great plans and things that we want to do to continue to grow and expand what we're able to do here. Lot around art, expanding cancer, building a new physician office building across the street from the facility to be able to accommodate all of the physicians that need and want to be close to the hospital, so they have that ability to see patients in their ambulatory setting and then come across to the hospital, which is the accommodations that we have at many of the other health systems. So that's what we want to be able to provide to the physicians that we continue to recruit. I know I'm over my time. I just wanted to talk really quick about community benefit. I wanted to talk a little bit about what we do to give back to the community. And being a not-for-profit facility, there are IRS requirements that we have to adhere to on the ability of community benefit. There are pretty strict rules on what qualifies for community benefit and what not-for-profit hospitals have to do. SSM of Oklahoma last year did about $63 million in community benefit. Midwest, we did $6.7 million in community benefit last year. A lot of that in the definitions goes in uncompensated care for charity care that we do, ability that individuals aren't able to pay after their insurance has paid. Education and research, we also have community grants that we give out into the community. Those are just a list of a few. But it is our way for being not-for-profit that we have a commitment to reinvesting back in the communities that we serve. As a not-for-profit, any of the profits that we have do go back into our facilities. We don't pay shareholders, we don't do that. And what we make, facilities need to make a margin to buy new equipment and replace roofs and pay for individuals that work there, and so those profits go back into the facilities.
On the uncompensated care, could you give us a definition of what that means? Folks that are uninsured that come and get care.
Yes.
You're saying that your hospital does not go after them through the court, does not go after the state for a refund? You basically call it a loss?
If a patient comes in and they qualify for charity care, and there are criteria to qualify for charity care, yes, then their bills are written off toward charity care.
So that 6.4 million are individuals who qualified for charity?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, if there's individuals that we can get them qualified for Medicaid and get them on Medicaid so they can get, which is the state program, and we do and have a service to help sign people up because that can be a little difficult for individuals to do. And so we have individuals in the facility that are trying to get individuals set up and make it easy on them so they can go to a primary care doctor, they can do those kind of things. But yes, if people do not have the ability to pay, as a not-for-profit facility, we triage, we treat, regardless of people's ability to pay. Yeah.
I'd also like to just jump in and say thank you really quickly because I had the opportunity to be part of the Medill Public Schools period program with Saints.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic program where young women are furnished feminine hygiene products because a lot of them can't afford to purchase feminine hygiene products, and so they staff them in the schools. And they also had a conversation with women about doing take-home backpacks for weekends also, because
Yeah.
it's not just while you're at school. And so I just want to commend SSM for their partnership
Thank
in
you.
that regard. So it's a tough time, particularly for young women, and, you know, not being able to afford the care that you need makes it that much tougher.
Well, and the young women who are missing school and those kind of things because of it. And so, something people don't like to talk about, but it's something that's very needed in the schools. So thank you for that. Yes?
I noticed that you have Middale schools up there. A large portion of our, Sarah and my area goes to Oklahoma City Public Schools. So how do we get them on the list? For our
They're on the
foundation?
list.
Are they?
That had to do with what we did to fund the period poverty, and we did that in other communities as well.
So we fall under that Middale?
Well, and I could show what we do with Oklahoma City does this exact same thing of what St. Anthony does in their community as well for community benefit, and they have some different programs that they do in Oklahoma County that I could get to you as well.
Yeah, we want to talk about
Yeah.
that
Okay.
at some point. Love to
Yeah.
talk to you about that at
Okay.
some point. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is my fault. I was very focused on, but that's good to know as well. We can share that information as well, because we do cover lots of different areas.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
These are just some of the other things that we do to give back. You know, we feel very strongly about serving on boards and being a very good part of the community. Does anybody have any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a statement. When the mayor and I got on the council 8 years ago, a week didn't go by, and Susan too, a week didn't go by where we weren't getting emails and social media posts about how terrible the service was at your the hospital that you took over, not your hospital. And I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I haven't got one since you took over.
No, none.
And that's huge, because we used to get them, I mean, routinely, every day, somebody was calling, or is there something you can do about the hospital? Can you do something about the ambulance? Or I got treated like I wouldn't take my dog there. I mean, it was pretty serious, so you guys have turned that around.
I too would like to compliment SSM for, you're not only a good community partner, but the quality of service that y'all have provided has gone up. And I would like to kind of throw out one stat for you, that other than the mobile coronary care unit that used to be stationed at the mothership downtown, Midwest City was the first hospital-based ambulance service in the state of Oklahoma, and they've been in service now 50 years. So thank you for continuing that service and upgrading it
Yes.
to where it is now. And
Thank you.
It's great to see, it really is. So there's no action needed on this. This is information only. Stacy, I can't thank you enough for
Oh, thank
providing
you.
that overview.
Mayor,
Well, I just want, makes me sad. Well, I hope we do, it's been just as much of a joy for us and SSA. We're so excited to be here, and just, if anything ever comes up, like I said, we're not perfect. You all have picked a partner that wants to be better tomorrow than they are today. And, you know, we talk about a lot with that with our employees, and there's things we've had to overcome, but we're really excited about where we are, and we're really excited about where we're going.
Stacy, before you go, I just have 3 questions, and I'll pitch them at you, and you can answer in whatever order.
Okay.
I'm not educated in this, so is there a sales tax associated to medical services, or is there no sales tax
No sales tax.
on that? Okay.
There's no,
Mental health beds. I know that you guys were expanding the behavioral health floor that has inpatient beds. How many what did we have before, and how many do we have now?
We just added Nick may have to help me a little to make sure. We just added 13 additional in our geriatric behavioral medicine unit. I believe we're at 36 on our geriatric behavioral medicine unit. And then we have an adult behavioral medicine unit that I believe we have 20 beds.
Okay.
20 beds.
Thank you.
Yes.
And then whenever, can we get a copy of this presentation as well, please?
Absolutely.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so
And
much
we
for
are
being
also
here.
looking to add additional outpatient behavioral medicine services as well
Awesome.
in the next year.
We
So-
definitely need that because outpatient services are rare, especially if they're community-based. so-
And, yeah, and there's a definite need for it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
There'll be a
okay.
lot more discussion on that later, and
Yeah.
just for the new council that are here, when I took over as city manager, this was just starting, this conversation with St. Anthony's, and and this was during COVID, and we spent 18 months negotiating this contract for the bedroom in the city, and there were other people that were involved in this, but Robert Coleman and I, and we were the ones in the room ourselves in there negotiating with the St. And this is a great contract, and it's a great relationship, and it continues to thrive, and just seeing the reinvestment in our community with the chamber, with the Y, with all the different groups. They're probably giving to Leah's Hope too, sitting back there, but you guys
I'm on their board.
you're on
Yeah.
the board,
Yeah.
unless you know.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
But
So,
it's a really beautiful relationship with St. Anthony's and their staff, and I can't say enough about Joe Hodges and the leadership, all the way down to Stacy, Aaron. Nick does a great job. You see him at absolutely everything. You never saw that before. These people weren't involved like they are. No, they were for-profit from outside the state, and they were here to make profit for their shareholders. And you know, it is what it is. I think Dr. Lewis back in the day, and some of you knew Dr. Lewis, I'd meet with him, and he goes, well, every time we turn a rock over, we find a scorpion, because there was always something wrong with something. So they've put a tremendous amount of money and assets into that property. We put money in that hospital, but they have put a lot more money into this hospital. So thank you, Stacy, and you're doing a fantastic
Thank
job.
you.
We're happy that you applied for this job.
I
by
am
the way.
very happy I applied for
very
this job.
surprised
I am
when-
very much. I will, before I send the presentation out so he can disseminate, I will add one page that just lists the number of beds, what they do, and just give an overview of the services, just as an overview page, so you guys can just have it, if that'd be helpful.
And that will allow Councilwoman Maxwell to maybe follow up with any specifics on our students, because
Yeah.
we're literally in Midwest City, but our kids go to a different school. So the closer we can keep them to home, the better for us.
Let's talk about that.
Well, the other thing too is we have a lot of kids that go to the Choctaw and Nakoma Park.
That's what I was just saying about the MyCon. We have Choctaw kids.
Well, let's talk about those, what we can do to make sure we take care of all the surrounding communities. Okay, if there's
Thank
nothing
you,
else, thank
Stacy.
you very much.
Before we go on into the next discussion items, there's been a request that we recess for 5 minutes, so we're recessed for 5 minutes. Meeting back to order.
Okay. So you're good. Mayor? Yes, no, correct. Correct. Beauty, correct. Okay. Is his computer on? Go ahead, you're fine. Well. Tim, did you need help to bring it up? Are you good?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Okay. Hold on one second, Mike.
Whatever.
So go to the website.
That's where I was at.
Okay. Hold on, give it a second. So the one she did upload, but she did not overwrite the ones I had, so you're good. There's 614 documents. I don't know where you get your.
I'm gonna have to download it.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Okay, discussion item number 2 on the hospital authority, Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of reappointing Amber Moody as the mayor representative on the Midwest City Hospital Authority Trust Board of Grantors for a second 4-year term ending May 11th, 2028.
And for a matter of transparency, Ms. Moody is a business owner here in Midwest City, a longtime Midwest City resident. She is the co-owner of Underground Coffee, actually a graduate of Star Spencer High School. Both of her children attend Carl Albert High School, and if you hadn't been in the Underground, they're a great family.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions?
I appreciate the background, I really do. It helps, it just really does help.
Well, and in order to further that in your request from last council, we are going to make that a matter of policy as it, from here on out when we have appointees. So we've got some things to do to work through that, but you made a very valid point, and you shouldn't be asked to approve people that you don't know. So I took that seriously, and we'll be moving forward with that.
I appreciate that.
And
Yes,
Rita,
ma'am.
just so you're aware, the city manager directed me to try to make that, to make that possible, so, we're gonna try to, I hope, on the third one, Mr. Cooley, who's, gonna come up third in this, I tried to provide more of that information, and we're gonna continue to work on it until we get all the information necessary for everybody, basically showing that they meet the requirements, as what the requirements are, where they're located, and then that they meet those requirements.
And I'm pretty good at that too, so I can help you out a little bit if you want.
Also, Dawn, if we could get some sort of a resume as a standard practice.
And that's the
yeah.
second piece of it,
Yeah.
is to get background information on them as to, you know, what they've done in the community, things like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we do have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 3, Mr. Lyons.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of appointing Megan Bain as the Ward 5 representative on the Midwest City Hospital Trust Board of Grantors for a 4-year term ending on May 23rd, 2028.
And once again, Ms. Maxwell and Ms. Bain, long-term resident of Midwest City. She did serve on the council for 2 years, I believe, and family's been here forever. So I think she's a graduate of Midwest City. No, I think Carla. I'll have to take that back. I'm not sure.
I know a little bit more about her.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to move to approve this, and I will also just share to some of the concerns that came up last time. Ms. Joyce Jackson, who was the previous appointee on behalf of Ward 5, my understanding is she also was not a Ward 5 resident technically. I'm honestly grateful to former Councilwoman Bain being willing to serve in this capacity. I know she's well networked throughout our community, and I think she will make all of us proud.
Just one point, just since you're going kind of backwards a little bit, I know I wasn't here for the last discussion, and I know you had mentioned that you had brought somebody to me, and I said that there could be a potential conflict of interest. I just want everyone to know that basis of that conflict of interest was, at least the previous year, that that individual was heading up our Juneteenth celebration and had made a request and filed an application for monies and a grant from the Board of Grantors. I just want to let everybody know, that was the basis of that decision. It wasn't anything else, but just that he had done that before, and if that were to continue, that could be problematic.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to you, Don. I know I had sent in a potential nominee forward, and you looked into potential conflicts and cleared that individual, and that individual couldn't do it because of their official title. And so the information you provided kind of helped me maneuver what individuals were able to feel that capacity to eliminate or pursue one.
During the last discussion, I voted no, and we talked about it at the time. It's the principle of the issue is that they don't live in your ward, and it's all, there's 10,000 other people who do, and it would be preferable in every case if ward representatives came from within the ward. And so I'm not going to change my vote, and that stays my position regardless of her qualifications or willingness to serve. So
I respect that, and I just want to make sure that we again have clarity that this particular appointment is not ward specific. So I respect your principles, but I just want to.
And just so everyone knows, the requirement for serving on the Board of Grantors comes out of the contract that was entered into by this body, the Board of Trustees for the Memorial Hospital Authority. And the two criteria that were set up was, one, that they be a resident of the city of Midwest City for at least a year, and the second requirement is that they at least be 25 years old.
I can understand that. However, this is a job where people make decisions about dispersing a large amount of money, and they make decisions based on the relative value of presentations or submissions for that money, requests for that money. And if somebody lives in a specific ward, they are more likely to look favorably upon monies being given to that ward. So having the members of the Board of Grantors balanced equally across each ward takes the unfairness out of it, and having two or even three people from one ward on the board, and they might even unintentionally have favoritism toward projects that benefit their ward more than one of the others. So that's the reason for it in my mind.
I did want to add two things. So procedurally, what happens is in September of every year, there's an application process that is open to any nonprofit or different individuals who qualify or meet criteria to apply. Those applications are reviewed by the Board of Grantors. They do not have the authority to hand out that money. So they make recommendations to us, the trustees, who then at that point either confirm or deny what they're recommending. So the concept or that they're just going around handing money and that they have total absolute power is incorrect. So they just review the applications, make recommendations that come before this body for approval. The other thing is, again, as I stated before, the predecessor appointee from my ward to this body, again, also did not live in Ward 5. Many of the applicants, and I actually, for the last 2 years, have reviewed all the applicants that then were reduced to those who were being brought before us for a vote. There's a perception, I guess, that you have that maybe that different people from different wards are applying. That's not necessarily, I don't think is correct. I think what happens is you have nonprofits who either serve the totality of the city. As a matter of fact, oftentimes we have city departments who apply for the grant money. So the concept that there are nonprofits in Ward 5 that are going to apply, I wish that was more realistic, because most of the nonprofits that operate in Ward 5 serve a broader community. They're not specific to Ward 5. And I do, just for the sake of Councilwoman Bain's credibility, I do recall when she was a councilwoman on this body and we had an issue with some apartments in Ward 5, I will tell you she was a huge advocate for the constituents in my ward. So I do not believe that she will have any level of bias against Ward 5 applicants simply because she lives a few miles down the road. But I respect what you're saying and I understand what your concerns are.
Okay, I understand you do have a motion to approve, Ms. Bannon. Or you did make a motion to approve?
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
Second.
Given the gravity of this, I think we need to call a roll call vote.
Eads. Byrne.
No.
Maxwell.
Yes.
Thompson.
No.
Banna.
Yes.
Favors.
Yes.
Dukes.
No. So I believe that nomination fails. And we will come back with another nomination, Ms. Banna, at a different time. I do, when you recover, I do have a suggestion for you out of your ward, and I'll make that to you. I've already spoken to the individual, and he's willing to serve, so I'll make that recommendation to you when you get back. Item number 4, Mr. Line.
Discussion, consideration, and possible action of appointing Chris Cooney as the Ward 1 representative on the Midwest City Hospital Authority Board of Grantors for a 4-year term ending on June 10th, 2028.
With latitude, this is my nominee for the Board of Grantors. Mr. Cooney is a longtime Ward 1 resident. He lives in the original Mile area. He's been involved with the Neighborhood Association. He serves on the Park Board. Sorry, I always
Parks
forget
and
if it's
Recreation
the-
Board.
The park or the tree. But he's been involved in that capacity. He honestly reached out to me asking if there were more opportunities in which he could serve. He's retired from the Tinker Fire, and he previously served as a serviceman also before he began his career as a Tinker fireman until he had to leave that opportunity. I've known him for probably 10 years now, and he is very active with regard to reviewing social media issues about things that happen in the neighborhood, public safety issues, any concerns, et cetera, that he sees that he feels like should be addressed or of concern, like possible drug houses in the neighborhood, speeding, failure to adhere to traffic regulations, stop signs, all the things to try to make the neighborhood a safer place to live. He is actively involved in, and I would just surmise it to say that he has a community-centric heart, and so I felt like he was probably the best person to proceed with a nominee for the Board of Grantors. So that's why I've nominated him.
Any questions of Ms. Eads? Chair to entertain a motion to approve.
I'm going to move to approve it since he's my nominee.
I have a motion and a second. Go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Eads.
Yes.
Byrne.
Yes.
Maxwell. Thompson.
Yes.
Banna?
Yes.
Favors?
Yes.
Dukes?
Yes. The motion is unanimous and the motion carries. Good discussion. Item number 5, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion and consideration of possible action on the resolution of the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $7,858,051 for the discretionary and $6,760,866 for the compounded principal, $1,032,500 for miscellaneous, $595, $154 for grants, and $1.6 million to $1,623,845 for the Sooner Rose Tax Increment Financing District.
This is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the council considering this budget? Hearing or seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 6, Mr. Lyon.
No action needed.
No action needed on number 6. Ladies and gentlemen, move into new business public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned, and I call to order the Special Economic Development Authority. There is a consent agenda, and these items are placed on the consent agenda for council members to take action. If unanimous consent cannot be made, then the item considered being discussed will be pulled and heard in regular order, or if unanimous decision cannot be made, chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Discussion item number 1, Mr. Lyon.
Public hearing with discussion, consideration, and possible action on a resolution of the Midwest City Economic Development Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $663,863.
This is a public hearing on this budget item. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing and seeing none, the chair to entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We move into public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned, and I call to order the Midwest City Special Utilities Authority. We have 2 discussion items on this agenda. Mr. Lyon.
Discussion, consideration, of possible action to approve the August 22nd, 2023 meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item number 2.
Public hearing with discussion, consideration, of possible action to approve a resolution of the Midwest City Utilities Authority approving its budget for fiscal year 24-25 in the amount of $490.
You're joking. I have a problem with that.
Move
This
to
is a
approve.
this is a public hearing. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority over $490?
Move to approve. Second.
$490 for?
I do have a motion. Do I
For
have a
the
second?
audit, for the auditor.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We move into public discussion. Does anyone have anything to bring before the authority? Hearing or seeing none, we are hereby adjourned. And I need a motion
Move to reconvene the city council agenda.
I have a motion to reconvene. Do I have a second? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We now
Move
move
to
into
adjourn.
executive session.
That's what I was gonna say.
And Mr. Lyon, you want to read that, or
We need to read that.
we need to read that?
reading the agenda items is a tradition of this body that is not a requirement under the Open Meetings Act.
Move to adjourn to the executive session as stated in this body's agenda for June 11th, 2024.
We have a well-stated motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, move into.
We have your indulgence for just 1 second. When we normally adjourn and go into executive session, there's a lot of chit chat out in the audience. We're kind of on a time frame tonight to not have a baby delivered to council chambers. So if everybody could take their chit chat outside so that we can get the executive session over with, I'm sure.
Will you make that in form of a motion?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.